The phrase modern gaming has grown to be a jab at the current landscape of the industry, mocking that developers seem to think that every game needs to be a live service game with a 10-year plan, and if it's not, it's sure gonna die trying. While there is still tons of fun to be had playing modern games, the industry certainly has changed. I think back to the Xbox 360 generation, where in between playing massive AAA releases, there were tons of smaller budget games that I grew to love, like Prototype, Split Second, Army of Two, NPPL Championship Paintball, does anyone remember that? And countless other underrated gems. That's not to discredit recent indie games that have absolutely exploded in popularity, like Hellblade 2, Pal Worlds, Lethal Company, and others. But I find it pretty rare these days to stumble across a game that I've heard little or nothing about and end up falling in love with it. And that's where Vanquish comes in. Vanquish was released almost 14 years ago on August 31st, 2010 on the Xbox 360 and PS3. And I had only just heard about it for the first time recently when scrolling through the YouTube app. Credit to Griffin Gaming's community post. I was looking for something to play, so I added it to my Steam wishlist, waited until it was on sale for $6, and have now found possibly my favorite forgotten gem of the Xbox 360 era. Vanquish has aspects that are both so generic and so unique. It seems to have taken strong inspiration from the Gears of War franchise, in both the cover shooter aspect, but also the whole tough guy act. The CO you're working with in the field, Robert Burns, looks like he was ripped straight out of the Gears franchise. Dude's built like a bowling ball. And your character, Sam, is the most stereotypical, one-liner dropping, cigarette smoking, try to be cool guy imaginable. And I absolutely love it. The story's pretty run-of-the-mill. In the future, the world's population has expanded to a point where everyone's vying for resources. The Russians attack San Francisco to force the US into surrender, and we're racing to recapture our space station that's used to harness energy from the sun before Russia takes out its next target, New York. The story isn't too deep, but with a twist towards the end that I'll leave out to avoid spoilers. The dialogue is much more interesting to me than the story. It's just a constant stream of Burns being a dick, sacrificing his men for the mission, and Sam being the over-the-top good guy, going out of his way to save Burns' guys. Then we have ridiculous lines to show how we're so cool and we're the good guy here. If you take the story and dialogue seriously, I could see this game being borderline unbearable. But it was just so ridiculous that I couldn't help but laugh, in a lighthearted, so bad it's good kind of way. But the story and dialogue are simply just catalysts for you to experience the gameplay, and that's where Vanquish truly shines. Vanquish is like if Gears of War was hit with the advanced movement craze seemingly every FPS franchise went through. You have your normal third-person cover shooter mechanics alongside a dodge roll. But then your sprint is a boost slide that you can immediately jump vault out of, and then over-the-shoulder zoom to slow time. The mechanics are simple yet effective. A low skill floor, but a really high ceiling once you've truly mastered them. I've been enjoying turning on some high-level gameplay and just admiring the combos people are able to pull off. The movement and shooting mechanics can be chained together so fluidly, and it's just fun to watch players that put in the work to learn how. Certainly way cleaner than anything I was able to do on my first playthrough. But this really encapsulates the spirit of the game. Sure, there's a story for you to follow, but Vanquish to me is just an arcade arena for you to go hog wild in. Like, here's some interesting advanced movement mechanics you don't tend to see in third-person shooters, let's see what you can do with them. And the entire game seems to be built around that premise. There are 25 levels in Vanquish, and it only took a little over 5 hours for me to complete. But every level ends with a score screen, showing your time, score, and other stats for that mission, as well as your total run. Your first story completion isn't the end, it's the beginning. The missions are designed to be replayed numerous times, encouraging you to figure out ways to beat them faster and figure out more efficient combos to up your score. The weapons feature an upgrade system where upgrades are dropped from enemies, and you can choose which weapon you want the upgrade level to go to. You can upgrade each weapon seemingly an endless amount of times, so I found my favorite 3 or 4 weapons and stuck to leveling those up. But who knows, maybe I misplaced my upgrades. I could have completely ignored the best weapon in the game because I had already invested heavily in my weapons of choice and didn't want to try anything new. I'm excited at the prospect of replaying and seeing how different weapons change my experience. This was my first time ever playing Vanquish, but it won't be my last. This short experience was a reminder of how great the Xbox 360 era truly was. A time where developers weren't afraid to try something wacky and see if it worked. It felt like there was actual innovation due to the willingness to take risks, and this game certainly was a risk. It never received a sequel because it didn't sell well enough for Sega to greenlight one. I know it doesn't do the series any good praising it now, 14 years later, and surely a dead franchise. And while I won't hold my breath for a Vanquish 2, I think Vanquish is a game worth your time and your $6 next time it's on sale. It's a highly replayable, fast-paced shooter with deep mechanics waiting for you to master. It's a forgotten gem of generations past. A game made for a console full of awesome titles that when their names come up, you think, wow, I forgot about that game. And you just smile to yourself thinking about how much you enjoyed them. Vanquish is a title that completely passed me by back in 2010. But now having played it, my only regret is not having played it sooner. Thanks for watching.